Hello and welcome back to the Overdue Sports Show. This is episode 4 of the Overdue Sports Show. I'm your host, Jake Swinski, accompanied by, as always, Will Massa. Once again, we're a little late, but he had a little scheduling conflict that we worked out yesterday. And this time we double promise, we pinky promise that we're going to be out by next Wednesday instead of recording on Wednesday. How you doing, Will?
Not too bad. Football is over. College baseball opening day is in 2 days.
I know you're
College
fired up.
basketball. Oh, I'm super fired up. We got tournaments starting soon. It's just a fun time of year. Spring training is right around the corner. I know football is over, and sad the gridiron's done. More so for college than pro, but this is a good time of year too. I like this time of year. Hockey playoffs are going to be coming up real soon when once we get into the nitty gritty of things. So we got
I
some.
was I was gonna put out a tweet, but there's like hockey going on, but like the Narcos Pablo Escobar, the meme sitting on the swing. It's like me day one without hockey, because like there's no hockey until the 22nd, I think.
Yeah,
So they're doing the
they're
the
on the.
worlds. What is that? What you technically call them? I'm not really sure. They do a ton of global stuff, which is cool. So it's like I'm not gonna complain, but I do miss the NHL. But we wouldn't be a sports show if we didn't talk about the big game. Sunday, Chiefs laid an egg in the Super Bowl, the big game. They were going for their three-peat. Eagles win Super Bowl 59, 40-22. Will, what are your thoughts?
Asterisks on the 22 because it was all garbage time.
Oh,
But
absolutely. Yeah, that was never a game.
no, from the get-go. And a couple things, like it's a shame to see Patrick Mahomes play so poorly on that stage. Like the last thing that, as much as most people, like we had a blog about it, talked about Chiefs fatigue, as much as you want them to lose, it sucks when it's like that. Like, yeah, okay, it's cool to see it come to an end and like finally someone different wins, but it's no fun for anybody when it's that big of a blowout. Like the pick six by Cooper DeJean was awesome, and then it's after that, and you're like, I don't really care. Like anything else can happen.
Yeah,
It's
like
fine by me.
well, but you mentioned the Chiefs fatigue in the blog I wrote. It's true, but then again, in the back of your mind, like I'm watching at a buddy's house, and we're like, a couple of us are over, and we're like, when do we bet the Chiefs live? Because it's
That's
gonna get close, right? And we're like, okay, if the Eagles go down and score, we'll do it. We're, just trying to time it up, and then halftime hits. We ended up doing it at halftime. I put like a half unit on it for 6.5 or for 13 units or something like that, whatever. I don't remember the exact number I got, but then it just never materialized. You're like, okay, I didn't really need to do that. And then they scored like 2 touchdowns when it was totally out of the question. So, yeah, not a very good watch. I mean, I bet pretty well. I kind of went a little nuclear with the touchdown scorers. I had like 6 guys, 3 of which I didn't know who they were. Some guy didn't play, but our Mickey Mouse offshore book,
still a loss.
it's a loss, not a push, even though he didn't step on the field. Makes sense, right? But and I had like the Chiefs punt return guy, which like after I found out who he was, I was like, oh, I kind of like that. That didn't happen. Kareem Hunt finally won a playoff game without scoring a touchdown. He had scored a touchdown every playoff game he's played in. But I got Worthy live, got Devontae Smith, and that kind of cleaned up most of them. So did a little prize picks prop parlay. I guess you call them squares. I don't know. I'm not really into it, but made a couple units on that with some promo cash from a referral code, and I did bet the Eagles. Was very scared until about 8 minutes in the first quarter. I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna have to worry about this. But I don't know if it was like the Eagles looking really good or the Chiefs looking really bad or if it was a lot of both.
I think it was a lot of both. I mean, the Chiefs looked really bad. I mean, you very rarely see Patrick Mahomes throw balls that are that poorly thrown, and they were bad. And it seemed like every drive he had one or two really bad ones. I don't think Travis Kelce had a catch until the second half, if at all. I turned it
He
off
had
after
a
the third
couple
quarter.
of
So
I think he
he
ended up
might have had a
having like
few.
2 or 3. Yeah, but it wasn't
No, it was
anything
not pretty from start to
substantial or
finish. And
meaningful.
Andy Reid is known for halftime adjustments, and so I figured that there was a chance they got the ball. But I bet the Chiefs because this time of year you see Chiefs -1, you kind of just do it. I didn't really care if it was the right or the wrong side. It's kind of just how the dice roll out historically. So I was like, all right, Chiefs, it's just automatic at that point. So I bet it, and I was doing the same thing. They get down early, and it's 10-0, 17-0. The Chiefs get the ball towards the end of half, and I'm like, they put 3 on the board. I'm gonna live bet it. 10 points is 10 points isn't enough. 13 points isn't enough. 2 scores, I'll live bet that. And Mahomes throws a pick. And that was the pick six, and I was like, that's it. That's game.
Yeah, and it really felt like that too. It was
Yeah.
like it never materialized. Like I said, Worthy had the 2 touchdowns or the 1 touchdown. No, he scored the last one, the first one and the last one they had. Then I don't remember. It was Hopkins. Hopkins scored the second one. Like they scored those 2 really quick, like in consecutive drives. But by then they had no timeouts, and there was like 4 minutes left, and they needed 3 more scores. So yeah, you just never got the feeling that it was ever going to tighten up. But for me, I think it was just surprising how well like the Eagles defense prepped and like how poorly the Chiefs offense really responded to it. Like I'm not going to sit here and say like their defense was like terrible. Like they started out slow, right? But what do you want them to do after you give them, you give them a free touchdown and you don't get a play across the 50 until like midway through the third quarter? Like, what do you really want Spags to do? And then in the second half, you're taking risks the entire time. You have to get pressure. You have to force a takeaway or a big play. Someone's open downfield, like Devontae Smith. Like that was the first drive out of the half. Like what do you got to do something. You can't just sit back and play your regular defense. They'll just take the time away. So yeah, I was just really shocked how poor the offense looked. Like the Eagles defense had turned it on, down the stretch. Like they've looked a lot better. They've looked a lot more dialed in. And I think they were like 1 and 2 in all the major metrics across the board for the entire season. But like even in the playoffs, it seemed like the Rams and the Commanders gave them a much better fight. Even the Green Bay did. Green Bay looked terrible. And if that game, you never felt like that game was completely over until like end of the fourth quarter. Commanders, different story, but like they at least moved the ball. But yeah, it was just a really uneventful game for the most part. Like unless you were on Eagles props or on the Eagles, if you weren't, you probably had a bad time.
Yeah, luckily I just took the Chiefs, so it's one of those where halftime hit and I was like, it's dead. Like I can check out of it. You put a note in our notes for the show. You said, "Is the dynasty over?" I'm gonna go with no, and I'll tell you why. Free agency is hit. Tyreek Hill wants out of Miami. The Chiefs need a receiver. DeAndre Hopkins is aging out. Xavier Worthy is solid, but not 100% proven.
He's not there yet.
Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
Tyreek comes back. Travis Kelce is aging out. He's lost a step for sure. But I can 100% see Tyreek coming back and the Chiefs winning next year.
Yeah, that's something to consider too. I'm not sure if Tyreek Hill's gonna want to go back there. I mean, he might.
He'll get
He
less
might
target
not.
share. I mean, when he was there, it was like him and Kelce, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, but I think the big question is Kelce. Like even if he's not putting up numbers like you saw in the past, like it's a big body you have to account for. And and it's not so much, oh, he's putting up 120 catches and 1,400 yards like in years past. Not that many catches or yards, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like he's not putting out blowout numbers, but just the inside the game kind of thing that Kelce brings to the table is super important. Like he finds pockets. Him and Mahomes are on the same page all the time. You have to cover him. Like you losing that piece of the offense is going to be a really big thing. So he's definitely a guy to keep your eyes on if he's going to lace him up another year. If they had won, I think he'd retire. Like I think he'd walk away, but I'm not really sure now.
I can see that actually.
Yeah, he's got nothing more to prove, but like I don't know, look at Tom Brady. He could have retired after they won that Super Bowl against the Chiefs a few years ago, and he didn't. So, I mean, I guess it all depends on what he wants to do, but I don't think it's over either. But that one looked really bad. The first Super Bowl Mahomes lost, it was very similar to like the Buccaneers beat the piss out of him. He looked helpless. So I think they're gonna come back next year, the vengeance for sure. But
I do think they got I don't know that I should necessarily say that it's unwarranted because they played really bad, but I think they got a lot of unnecessary hate. Like as good as that team has been, to me, like the biggest difference, like it seemed like Andy Reid just got flat out outcoached. Yes, Mahomes played bad, but like he typically adjusts really, really well game plan wise. And I anticipated some fight, but that even the third quarter was a pathetic effort. And then you just throw up some garbage time points in the fourth, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, when it doesn't matter. Yeah, that was, among other things, that was a pretty big shock too. Like you never saw that really good adjustment that he's typically known for making. But I was gonna say something else. Oh, unnecessary hate. Yeah, that's what you said. Like, I don't know. It was really easy to say they were lucky all year, but I don't really know if that's true. Like they got lucky, but like it doesn't take away from the fact that they're good. Like they were 15-1.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to be lucky like that. Like how many teams do you see? Like the only team from memory I can think of like that was the Vikings from
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah, Kevin O'Connell's first year coaching, where they won like every one-score game they were in. It was that 2 or 3 years ago.
It may have been 3. It was the year when
Jeff said,
that Indy game against the Colts when they were down by like 40.
Jeff Saturday was the coach. They were up like 4,000 points and they lost. Yeah, like that is the only other time I can recall that, like where I remember it's like, oh, everything seems to go their way. And it's like, yeah, it did go their way in a lot of cases this year with the Chiefs, but like they were still really good. And you had guys step up on that team. You lost Rashee Rice in week 2 or week 1, whatever it was, and it's like those guys contributed. You lost Pacheco for a month, and like he came back and he wasn't even useful. Like I don't know if he just kind of got schemed out or if he wasn't like good enough to, fill that role like he needed to. But the defense was really good all year for the most part. So, yeah, I get it. Like, I'm kind of sick of seeing them too over and over. And it's just kind of the way the NFL markets them. And, Taylor Swift with it all, she's fucking annoying. Like, sorry, she is. Like, I don't hate her. She's just annoying. I don't care. And I feel like most people feel that way. It's not like you go on Twitter and it seems like like a really polarizing issue. I don't think it is. I think people just like don't really want to, like they're just indifferent to her. It's like, why are you rubbing my face in this? Like I'm watching football. I don't care what she thinks about anything. Like she's a big liberal and, let's put politics in there because that gets the people going. It's like, I don't care what she thinks about anything. I just don't want to see her on my TV. Don't hate her. Just don't really care. But you have anything else to talk about the Super Bowl? Like, I mean, we could sit here for an hour and just go back and forth about like, what we see coming next year. But
right.
It's just that game was so forgettable. Like the Cooper DeJean thing was really cool. Like
that's like the thing. That's going to be the takeaway of all of this.
And I don't know if you saw this, but Devontae Smith is the first Alabama player to score a touchdown in a Super Bowl ever.
Is that true?
It sounds so not fake. True, but I think it is. Like I saw it, and maybe I ate the Twitter trash, but I saw that he's like the first player to score a touchdown from Alabama in the Super Bowl.
You might be onto something though.
Well,
like, but think about like Trent Richardson.
Well, he's a lineman.
Trent Richardson? No.
Who am I thinking? Who's the guy in the 49? Oh, I'm thinking of Williams. Oh, sorry. Disregard. I was like, why would he score a touchdown? Oh, yeah. But like Derrick Henry's never been there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Derrick
Yeah,
Henry was the one that
Derrick
would come to
Henry,
memory, but
Mark Ingram, I don't think's ever been there.
none of the quarterbacks.
None of the quarterbacks, because I mean, it's not throwing a touchdown; it's scoring it, like physically
Yeah,
scoring a touchdown. But yeah, like I believe it.
yeah,
I
it might
mean,
be
if
right.
someone told
It
me it
sounds
was
so
wrong,
fake though.
yeah, if someone told me that's not true, I'd believe that too. But I just thought Trent Richardson was a lineman, so I'm kind of stupid sometimes. But
You
oh,
should
one
score
more
on
thing
defense.
before we talk a little college baseball for you to keep your sanity going. Who do you like next year? Like outside of the Chiefs. I wouldn't wager on the Chiefs personally. Like this
Neither
is more of a
player.
betting talk. Like
Yeah.
who do you like?
I don't know. It's a really good question. I There's some teams that I liked a lot this year that were like disappointing. Like I kind of liked Tennessee coming into the year, and they stunk. Like I thought they were going to take a step forward, and they were horrible.
Well, you don't expect them to go to like the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, no, no. But just like a
No,
step
I'm
forward.
just saying like who do you like? Who are like
Oh,
a
like
team or two from
Super
each
Bowl.
side? Yeah, like who could go to the Super Bowl next
I
year?
still think the Lions got to be in the talk.
I
I
don't know.
like that.
Like
They got banged up so bad on defense this
yeah,
year.
they did. That's true.
It's just
But
like it's like by the time they limped to the finish line this year, I felt like so and
yeah, while
we
still getting tugged off by the media, like, oh,
yeah.
this team's so fucking good, and then they get
I mean, but
bullied by
they did just
Raiders.
lose
Yeah,
their OC and DC to New York, so that could be
yeah.
a
I
big
think
factor.
they're too talented to have that make a like a night and day difference, right? Like, I don't
Yeah,
think
I
oh
agree.
they lost Ben Johnson, they're gonna like be a JV offense. Like that's not true. They're too talented, but I don't think you're gonna see him rip off 50 burgers every other week. But then again, maybe they will. So you like the Lions. I kind of like the Bengals.
Dude, they have to fix that O line. They have to help Joe Burrow somehow. But I think T Higgins is going to be gone this year, so I think
You
that's
don't think
going to
he's
play a
gonna
part in
stay?
it. I don't know. He is the definition of like too good to be a wide receiver two and not quite good enough to be a wide receiver one in my book. But I think if you put him on the right team, he can be a solid wide receiver one, but he wants wide receiver one money. And you're never going to get that playing side by side with Chase. So as much as like it
No.
would help the Bengals for him to stay, I think he's going to go elsewhere. I've heard grumblings, and maybe it's just like that's where people are thinking he may go, but Vegas could be a location for him. I've heard that a decent amount.
Yeah, well, I think the real solution's kind of like somewhere in between, right? Like, is he worth wide receiver one money? No, probably not.
Probably not.
But he's probably worth more than what the Bengals are offering him, to
Yeah.
be fair, because I feel like they're kind of lowballing him because you paid Chase all that money and then
Yep.
you paid Burrow all that money 2 years ago. Then he immediately, is hurt. So,
He's
like,
always hurt. That's his thing. He's kind of like Keenan Allen in that way. He's younger, and I think he's a little bit more talented, but he's never on the field. So it's like he plays
yeah, well, when
13
he is on
games
the
a
field,
year.
he's always kind of banged up too, kind of like
Yeah.
Herbert. But I do kind of like the Bengals. Like if they could just start the season not 0-3, like they'd be like a perennial contender. Like, oh, this team's really good. Yeah, they are, and they were in the Super Bowl. It's like, well, you could probably replicate that every year if you weren't 0-2. They were 0-2 to start that season too. It's like they are allergic to September for whatever reason. But another team I like is I kind of like the Packers. I think if the Packers make a nice splash in free agency, like I think they're
Got to
right
get a
there.
receiver.
Yeah, like that's a must. Like if they don't, I wouldn't do it. But it sucks because it's like, oh, it's so obvious to do that, right? Like, oh, they just made a big signing, bet them. It's like
But it's
they're
true.
right
I think
there. Like they're
are the
literally right
right.
there. It's hard
Yeah.
to ignore that. So, any other football thoughts? Oh, I do. I think I like Texas in college football. The numbers
Or
piss, but like I think I like Texas. I don't know why. They're just looking at me funny.
I ate a whole lot of shit on college football futures this year. I don't even want to talk about it. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
hold off until we
I
get to
just
the
did the
fall.
one. I just did the one, but I think I like
Uh,
Texas.
I was so about the Utes this year. They were rat piss.
Well, I mean,
They fooled me.
Can always run it back. Cam Rising, Heisman.
I did have that. He didn't even
Do it
play. He played like
again.
2 games.
Do
In
it
his ninth
again.
year. At some point, you just got to tell him to hang him up. Just don't come back.
Probably, but that's no fun.
It's true.
All right.
I do like seeing ninth year guys.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to some college baseball. I want to talk specifically futures, but I'll let you take the conversation where you want it to go since you are the college baseball guy.
Oh, it'll be all futures in this one. I'm not going to get too in depth in the weeds. I've been talking about these teams for months at this point. I put out my entire portfolio on Twitter over the past week. It's big. I want to preface this. Last year I had a fantastic year again. My futures cards, however, were not. I bet on 9 teams to go to the College World Series. If you're unfamiliar with college baseball, they set it up similarly to the college basketball bracket. There's 16 one seeds, each host a regional with 3 other teams in it, so pods of 4. There's 16 of them total. I bet on 9 teams last year. 8 of those 9 teams, 7 of those 9 teams were 1 seeds. So almost half the field was a 1 seed. So in my head, I'm thinking,
we're good.
I'm at least going to get 2 or 3 of these.
Mm-hmm.
None of them made the World Series. 2 of those teams I bet on to win the whole thing. They didn't even get to Omaha. The other one was a 2 seed who also did not get out of their regional, and the other was TCU who didn't make the tournament. So I went into regionals thinking I'm probably going to get 2 of these, and I didn't even get a super regional team. They all lost in the regionals. Horrible. So having said that, I'm back for more. So we're going to start with conference winners. Let's start with the SEC because that's the most popular conference. Texas A&M is a team I'm completely all in on this year. They're the number 1 team this year. I've got Texas A&M to win the SEC at plus 400 for half a unit. They're actually not the betting favorite. Tennessee is coming off the national championship win, but I'm not buying it. Give me A&M at plus 400, and I also sprinkled Georgia at 13-1. It's a team to me that's going to be really, really high ceiling. Their pitching could completely break out this year, and they could have 3 really good arms, and the bullpen is just loaded. They're going to hit really well. They play in a little bit of a smaller park. They're always going to be good at home. I think they're well worth the shot. They're probably the best value bet in the SEC. So take a stab there. The Big 12, Georgia. Georgia's a fun one. Georgia's a fun one this year. The Big 12. There's 2 teams that I really like. There's 2 teams that I personally bet on, quarter unit each. Both TCU and Arizona, plus 500 and plus 550 respectively. TCU's number 1 arm reportedly not pitching this weekend, dealing with some arm trouble, so they might get off to a slow start. You might be able to get that number even a little bit better in a couple of weeks if they stumble early without him. I'll be curious how that rolls, but they've got a lot of bounce back candidates I like. Arizona's got their first year in the Big 12, and objectively, the Big 12 this year is a complete crapshoot. There's probably 7 teams that could win this thing. Arizona has one of the best players in the country in their outfield. They pitch the ball really, really well. They play in a hitter-friendly park. I'm excited for Arizona. They're going to be really solid. A dark horse who I did not bet that might be worth looking into is UCF. I believe they are 13 or 14-1. They brought back nearly everybody on the pitching staff. So it's just a rare thing that you see now with the transfer portal. I take it, as a good thing. Not the most talented group, but when you have that kind of gel and a lot of guys coming back, you can make a nice little run. And in a conference where it's kind of anyone's game, like somebody could come out of the woodworks and win it. Moving on to the Big 10. Oregon is the betting favorite at even money. Wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Just not worth it for conference futures. You're not really getting any bang for buck there, even though they'll probably take it home. They were a powerhouse in the Pac-12 the last couple of years. But I've got my money on Indiana at plus 750. Indiana's going to bang this year. Extremely good offense. Devin Taylor, one of their outfielders, should be in the Golden Spikes conversation, which, if you don't know, is basically college baseball's MVP award. My issue with Indiana is they are replacing their entire rotation this year. So I don't really know what we're going to get on the pitching side, but they can hit with the best of them. So they've got a legitimate chance there. My favorite futures bet, as far as like a sprinkle long shot, is the Penn State Nittany Lions at 65-1.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
As of right now, they're 55-1. I will take some credit for bumping that line down. I talked about that on a podcast the other day, and we all agreed that was our favorite. This is a team that, and when you're looking at futures bets, I'm always looking at value as far as placement. So Penn State was worst in the Big Ten in terms of betting odds when I took it at plus 6,500. This is a team that can and should finish in the top 5 of the conference, and they probably have the most conference-friendly schedule. They don't play Oregon. They play Indiana at home. They go to Nebraska, who's going to be a top team this year, and then they play 4 of the 6 bottom teams in the conference. So they miss a lot of the top teams. And those top teams they do have, they play at home. So Penn State is a super friendly schedule. And if they get off to a hot start, and if they take an Indiana series or they take a Nebraska series, they could definitely win the regular season. And this is a team that the whole college baseball world is really high on coming into this year. They're finally dumping money into the program. They've got a fantastic head coach. This is like going to be their breakout year. And this is a line that I've seen a lot of people taking because it's objectively wrong. Believe it's at 55-1 at the moment. Still worth a shot there. The ACC, there's a couple ways you can do this. I just wanted action in the ACC, so I took North Carolina at plus 400. Very small sprinkle. I really like Virginia this year. Virginia is one of my favorite teams. I'll get into them a little bit later when I get into the down the line futures. These are just conference winners. But I think you can't go wrong betting one of Virginia and UNC, but UNC just brings a ton of talent back on the mound. They were one of those teams where the entire pitching staff was freshman, sophomore last year, and now they're sophomore, junior with a lot more experience and Omaha experience. They're going to be really, really good. They are replacing their entire outfield, but I still like what they're bringing in. I've heard really good things from the coaching staff. Clemson is another team I like, but I like North Carolina a little bit more. My final conference winner bet, we're going out west, headed to the Big West. If you're unfamiliar with college baseball as well, the West Coast is known for pitching. It's not.
Yeah, it's almost like quarterbacks with football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Big West is no different. UC Santa Barbara, Cal State Fullerton, those kinds of teams are known for very solid pitching and like gritty hitters. But I bet on the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors plus 500. They're third in the betting odds. Right now, you've got UCSB and UC Irvine both at like plus 185. I like Hawaii here. I think they're the best hitting team in the Big West. And I think the pitching is going to be just good enough to eke out those other teams. And I saw it last year in UCSB's regional. They were a 1 seed. They got matched up with Oregon in their regional, who was a 3 seed. And Oregon just hit the cover off the baseball. And I knew right away that team was going to take down UCSB regardless of what they rolled out on the mound. So those are my conference winners. Now, moving to teams to make Omaha. Here's a little bit less. I have got 8 of these this year. So my bigger plays, my half unit plays are going to be Texas A&M, who I just talked about at plus 120. Those are small odds, but I think it's still worth a sprinkle. There definitely is a chance with a first-year head coach and such high expectations around them that they stumble in regionals. I've said it before, but this team is way too talented. My next 2 are going to be North Carolina and Virginia, who I both like a legitimate chance to win the World Series at plus 200. So those are my 3 half-unit plays. My quarter unit plays are going to be Arkansas, who I think is a very, very solid bet in the SEC. They're going to pitch the ball extremely well like they always do. And that lineup goes pretty damn deep. So I'm really excited for Arkansas. And then Georgia, who I just mentioned at plus 300 to make Omaha, worth a sprinkle in my book. Now we get to the fun ones, the small plays, the long shots. We got Dallas Baptist University plus 750. I think they're the best mid-major this year.
Dallas Baptist.
Yep, they're a perennial powerhouse in mid-major college baseball.
Do they play like D2 basketball or something?
Yeah, I think the only sports they play D1 in is baseball and softball.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So it's like, who the hell is that?
They're in Conference USA for baseball, and I know they're not.
Oh, okay, cool.
I've also got Indiana in there at 15-1. A play I also really
make
like.
the World Series, you said.
Yes, to make Omaha.
Okay, cool.
Make the World Series. Troy at plus 950 is another mid-major team. So those smaller plays are typically where I fit in the mid-majors because there's always a couple that are above the rest and that are just going to be really solid. So those are 2 teams that I really like from the mid-major bunch. And Before I get into teams to win the World Series, I'm going to talk about Gold Spikes because I've got 2 bets.
This is one I want to tell you on too.
This is the one. So I've talked about this guy since early December, how I think he's going to win the Golden Spikes Award. He's got all the talent in the world. He's just improved the contact rate a little bit, and he's probably going to be the best hitter in college baseball. Nolan Schubert from Oklahoma State. I bet this in early January. I got it at 75 to 1. I believe right now it's at 30 to 1 or 25 to 1. Still think it's worth a shot at those odds. 75 to 1 was outrageous. My other one is Devin Taylor from Indiana, 50 to 1. Also a very fun play. He's going to be the best hitter in Indiana. He's going to be a top 10 pick more than likely this year. So if Indiana finds himself in a regional or super regional and he's in the spotlight, that just only increases the odds. So those are the 2 guys I really like for Golden Spikes this year. They both hit for really well average. They do it all. What I've noticed in Golden Spikes is that unless you're going to hit 500 average, you got to have some power production. And a lot of people like Cam Canarella from Clemson, he might hit 15 home runs, but he's a freak athlete kind of guy. It's one of those players that is better on the eye test than he jumps out on the stat page. Same with Brendan Summerhill from Arizona. So you got to kind of look at guys that are going to produce in the power department as well, because that's what people like. Saw Charlie Condon do it last year. He broke the record for home runs in a single season. Dylan Cruz did it on the World Series team from LSU, and he was Mr. Do-It-All, but he also hit like 450 or something with a lot of home runs and doubles. So those are my 2 Golden Spikes guys. Love them both. Oklahoma State is Nolan Schubert and Devin Taylor from Indiana. Finally, teams to win it all. I've got 2 full unit plays. Texas A&M at 10 to 1. I believe they are 9 to 1 right now. I think they're like plus 950 or something. Again, one of those teams that should just get it done this year. They went all the way last year. They lost. Their whole coaching staff dipped out on them. The entire team hit the transfer portal. They're all back. Very, very excited. They brought in some excellent transfers. Super stoked about the Aggies this year. If they don't stumble in regional play, this team is going to be a wagon. My second play, which I believe the betting odds are now 13 to 1 or 12 to 1. Someone asked me on Twitter the other day when I released them. So I think they're around that 12 to 1 mark. I've got the Virginia Cavaliers at 25 to 1. Bet them about 3 weeks ago. Huge fan of them. Potentially the best offense in baseball. And rumor has it from the coaching staff, this is the best pitching staff they've had in 5 or 6 years. So if they hit the way that everyone thinks they are, and they pitch the ball better than they have the last couple of years, feels like a no-brainer. They can be just a wagon this year. So I'm really excited about those. That's my futures card. Put them out on Twitter so you can go find those as well if you need more in-depth.
Now, here's a dumb question. How often does a pitcher win the Golden Spikes? Has it ever happened, or is it like a hitter exclusive award?
This is an excellent question. It's very similar to MLB MVP, where it happens, but very rarely. So Paul Skeens did not win it in 2023. 2024, we had Hagen Smith, who matched and beat Skeens in certain categories. He didn't win it either. The last pitcher we had win it was in 2021, Kevin Kopps from Arkansas, but he was a freak. I mean, he was throwing like 8 innings every game, kind of like Paul Skeens was doing, but at a higher level to some degree. And he didn't have any hitters that year that were like out dueling him. Like Skeens had Dylan Cruz right on his tail on the same team. So before that, it was Trevor Bauer in 2011. So very rarely do pitchers win this award.
Do they have like a pitcher award?
They do have a pitcher award.
Oh, okay.
It's like the best pitcher award.
There is a way for them to be rewarded for that.
Yes.
Did you have a best pitcher, or did you not take one?
No, I don't even know what that award is called, to be quite honest with you. I just know it exists. It's not like how we pay really close attention to Cy Young.
Okay, it's not like there's not a betting market with it or anything.
No, just Golden Spikes. And you could look at a pitcher, but I mean, my logic is if the last 2 years we didn't have a pitcher win it when we easily could have,
all-time college baseball performances.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that
but
makes
you're
sense.
not gonna get it. It's just becoming that award. It's also trending towards draftier guys rather than underclassmen. There's some really good underclassmen this year that I'd love to win it next year. But it's kind of trending towards they want to see guys that are going to win that award and then get drafted a week later. It's kind of the
good PR. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So it's kind of trending that way. So I anticipate, unless someone really, really breaks out and has a crazy year, breaks records, it's probably going to go to a draftier guy, which both the guys I mentioned are both draftier guys.
Okay. I think you convinced me on Penn State. I think I'm going to be a Nittany Lion this year.
They're going to be really fun, even at 55-1. They should be. If you ask me to place those odds, they should probably be in like the 20-1 range, just because they haven't had the track record. Be 15 to 20-1, maybe 25, but like
that's what you would think is realistic to what they could do. It's just like they're not getting any bit of respect in the market.
No. And they have, in my opinion, the friendliest schedule in the Big Ten. Like they have the most like team friendly schedule. They don't play Oregon, which is huge, and they play Indiana, who I think is the next best team at home. So they've definitely got their they'll have their work cut out for them, but they're doing a really good job up there. And if they don't do it this year, it's probably going to be next year. They fully like ramp up. But this year feels like one of those years where the books just are not adjusted to them. And it's going to be a team that I look to bet a lot in the regular season. I'm actually planning on betting them tomorrow. They are, let me look at this line. I believe they're plus 180 tomorrow. They're plus 150 against Mizzou, who is arguably the worst team in the SEC. So
sign me up. I'm tailing you this year, so you better bring your A game or your C game. That works too. Whatever.
That's all I got on the college baseball front.
Yeah, you convinced me. I'm going to tail a couple of these. I would go look myself, but like I don't know anything about it, so it's like I might as well just guess. So I'll try to look at something, but I guess we'll see. I think I've hit like one college baseball bet by myself ever. I think I bet like Charleston last year, some like day 2 of a series. I don't even remember who they played, but it was like plus 130. I got it. It was like the first one and like the only one. I think I did like 2 other games, but how about a college sport I know a little bit about? College basketball. Have you been watching a ton? Because the last couple weeks have been pretty exciting. Like a lot of good games the last couple weeks. Florida Auburn was on Saturday. That game was awesome. I could go on and on. Do you have any thoughts right now?
I have been a little bit checked out. However, there's one team that I've been slightly in tune with just because they've had a really tough schedule the last couple of weeks and they've just been on a tear. It's the Kansas State Wildcats. Took down Kansas at home, I believe, for the 5th straight time, if I'm not mistaken. Like they just seem to own Kansas at home. And I believe I saw on Twitter, I might be eating the Twitter trash as well. I believe they beat them in 5 straight at the Little Apple in Manhattan. They've just absolutely dominated, and for them to do that, and I do believe Kansas is a little bit fool's gold this year. I'm not going to lie. I'm not 100% sold on them. But nonetheless, a fantastic win for a team that's 6th in the Big 12, 7th. And then they come out and they beat Arizona, who's 2nd in the Big 12. So back, like, just knocking out really huge wins for them, resume builders. And that's a team that's more or less fighting for their life right now.
Yeah, they have to play very well down the stretch because they were really behind the 8 ball. Like, I don't even know if they'd be on the bubble right now. They've been so bad this year. Like, they'll probably end up being there just because of the quality of their recent wins. But, if you change a couple of those wins to a loss, like, we wouldn't even be talking about them whatsoever. Yeah. So they got their work cut out for them. But the Big 12 is just one of those conferences where, like, the home court really matters. You know what I mean? Like, the SEC is loaded this year, right? Florida goes on the road to the Jungle in Auburn, and they smoke them. Like, the game wasn't close outside of 10 minutes in the first half. Big 10, that doesn't matter. How many teams? Like, Rutgers beat Illinois at home. Indiana beat Michigan State at home last night. It's just the Big 12, it really seems like that home court advantage is something that's really, really king there. For why, I'm not really sure, because, like, and I look at the Big 12, you've got, like, your 3 real standout teams, right? Houston, obviously. Iowa State, they've sputtered here and there, but I still think they're a really solid team. And Arizona, I think, started a little slow, but they look to be really good too. Texas Tech is in there as well. I throw Kansas and Baylor-ish on that level too. But like those are the three like 1A teams to me anyways. I don't look at Ken Palm or anything like that. It's just kind of an eyeball test for me. But a lot of that conference is kind of just, in the middle of the pack. And like, I think anyone can get out of that conference, especially at a neutral site. It's hard to imagine Houston won't, but I've been saying it for a long time. Houston seems to be scoring a lot better this year. Like the offense seems to be coupled with that really intense defense they play. But still, you catch them on a bad shooting night, you can win. It's probably easier to win 50-50 as opposed to 80-81 there. You know what I mean? Like if you can't score, but they can't either, you've got a chance against Houston.
Yeah. And I will say they do seem more beatable than they have in years past. Like it seems like some years they get into it and that defense is just suffocating. Like
yeah, it doesn't seem as suffocating this year.
No,
They seem a lot more balanced. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Auburn is the real deal. And let me know how you feel about Alabama. Like Alabama to me is one of those teams that I never ever buy in March. And I will say it. I said it last year. I'll say it again this year. I hate that style of play. That sprint up the court, jack threes. It doesn't work in the tournament. It doesn't. You can get hot and you can win 2 or 3 games if you really, really are shooting the lights out. But I mean, even last night they played and they beat Texas and they stomped Texas. But Texas still scored over
Texas
80 points.
Texas is horrible though. Like they're the worst team in the SEC.
I mean, I know Alabama broke triple digits, but like Texas still scored 80.
Yeah. Sorry, I got something in my throat. 2 things to add to that. I got a funny story about that style of play. When I was in high school, well, when you were in college still, did you play St. Norbert in conference play?
My last year, yeah, they did.
Your last year you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in that area, and when I was like a sophomore or a junior in high school, at the time, like St. Norbert was in a different conference, and they played this school called Grinnell. It's in Iowa somewhere. Not sure if you heard of it or not, but now I'm telling the story to no one. But this kid's name was like Jack Taylor or Jake Taylor or something. He scored 100 points in a D3 game, and we went to watch them like the next game they played. It was in Green Bay, and like to your point, it was literally sprint up the court, pass the ball to him, and he'd shoot. That was their team. So it was just a little anecdote there. But
do you want to know something hilarious about that Grinnell team? That team, when they got like a national spotlight, probably like 2 years ago or so, they had a kid on their team. He was a starter, and me and some of the guys that we played baseball with, we play in like a men's basketball league, and we played one of the kids from that Grinnell team, and it's just like a pickup league, but he played against us, and he hit like 13 threes against us. And he was wearing a Grinnell jersey. And we're like, dude, you play there? And he's like, oh, yeah. And we like looked up his stats after the game. He like actually was a starter there, and he shot like 45% from 3 in his career. I'm like, dude, this is so stupid.
Yeah, it's crazy how much better the college basketball players are than regular players. And you watch them on TV, and you're like, oh, I could do that. Yeah. Yeah. But to your point, they weren't good,
No.
And like Alabama is super talented, and I think each year that goes by, like it seems like they're putting it together more and more every year. Like this was a Final Four team last year, pretty much, right? And that style works for them. It's been working this year too. It seems like the clunky shooting nights aren't as they're not happening as often. But I mean, it's really hard to. I think Florida is the real deal. Like, if I were to pick a team out of the SEC, Auburn and Florida. Like,
I agree.
Florida might be a little bit of recency bias, yeah, just because they did go to Auburn and beat the piss out of Auburn. But like I've been saying all season, Florida is really, really, really good, But you know how it works. Those really good teams, they don't win that tournament for whatever reason. Like last year, Florida was in the SEC championship game. They were 120-1.
Yeah.
It is just like I like Mizzou. Like if you're gonna take a long shot, bet Mizzou. Like I think Mizzou's a team that could just catch fire and win like 3 games in a row, and they might lose that fourth one. Or I think they play 4. It's a big enough conference where they'd play 4 games for everybody. But
Yeah, Kentucky's another team that I think is going to
yeah,
be really solid down the stretch.
I don't think they're as good as it leads on to be. Same with Tennessee. Like I don't think either of those
I
teams are
agree with you on
really
Tennessee.
that good. Like I'm not saying they're bad, right? But like if you look at the top 10, the top 25 teams, I think there's a lot of fluff in there. Like I think there's a lot of teams that are like defaulted to be ranked. Like I don't see a lot of those teams as really being like. Would you say Texas A&M is the 8th best team in the country? I wouldn't. Their defense is stifling. Don't get me wrong, but like Texas A&M is a team that'll score 40 points against South Carolina and win 42-40. Like it's a very college basketball is so weird. It really is.
Yeah, and to your point, like I mean, the SEC is loaded this year, but it brings up a point that I want to say is like, is the reign of the Big East dead? The Big East kind of stinks.
Yeah, that conference
It's not
it's
good.
pretty poor. St. John's, I think, is far and away the best team in that conference. Like they'll
I
win tough
agree.
road games. Um, they play at the Garden sometimes. They play in that smaller gym on campus. Like they're tough to get. And like Rick Pitino's in year 2, he's got all the guys that he wants there. Like they are really year 2 or year 3, one of the two, but might be year
Two,
3. Is it
two.
2? Okay, but
Yeah, because 3 years ago he was at Iona.
Iona, yeah, and he lost the first round
Yeah.
against UConn. He covered, but yes, like St. John's, far and away the best team in the conference. Still don't know if they're going to win it though, because I think like those middle of the road teams are playing well enough to where they've got like a fighter's chance. Creighton's really good too. They did lose last night. They had like a terrible shooting second half. I was on UConn, thank God. But UConn, I think UConn is a lot like Kentucky. Like Kentucky's more talented, but I don't think like I bet them to go to the Final Four. I think I priced that right. I think people are going to start getting back on UConn, but I don't think they're going to the Final Four. Like I think they're like a round of 32 exit this year. I just don't think they're that good. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I got money on me being wrong, so fine. But
And
I don't think
I feel similarly about Marquette too. Like I don't think Marquette is.
they're very inconsistent, but they are like that Cam Jones kid might be the best player, like one of the best players in the country. I think if you were to bet Marquette, I think now's the time. They've tough stretch for them, and I think they're going to start playing well down the stretch. But outside of those 4 teams, really, like there's nothing else really there. Xavier will play tough, right? I think they beat UConn, but based on what I just said, I don't think that means as much.
Nova's the same way. They're like okay.
Yeah, Villanova is just. I think they're talented. I just think they're so poorly coached. Like anything that their offense can do, or anything their talent can do, just gets outweighed by the fact that their coach is a numpty. No, speaking of which, I am 1 for 3 on my blog. We got Mike Woodson gone, so let's go 3 for 3.
Yeah, if you didn't know, Mike Woodson officially announced they're
Totally
not firing him, but he
He's
is
just
out
they're
at the end
letting
of
him
the
walk
season.
away. Yeah,
Yeah.
good riddance
So
too. And then they
letting him-
immediately like go like win 2 big games. Like shocker. What if they go
yeah,
on a
back to
run?
the
Yeah, back to the Big
right.
East. Yeah, that conference.
Georgetown is bad.
Georgetown's really bad. Butler's really bad. DePaul's really bad.
Seton Hall is horrible.
Seton Hall's like one of
I
the
love
worst
betting
teams
them.
in the
I still
country.
bet them every. It seems
Oh,
like
I do
every Saturday.
too. It's so frustrating. Yeah, they're terrible. They lost by like 14 to Georgetown. Like,
Yeah, I think I bet them against Georgetown in that game.
yeah, but that conference isn't what it's been a couple years past. Like they are top to bottom not good. Like you would consider them a major conference in college basketball. They're probably the worst one, or the second worst one. I'd still say the ACC's worse, but
yeah, I would agree.
oh,
At least
I
top
mean,
and bottom.
yeah, I mean if can just go to the ACC.
And Miami is in
Don't even get me started. Big win last night though against
Syracuse.
But yeah, the ACC. There's 3 teams that really, really, really have a chance, and Duke obviously. Clemson's good, and Louisville. That's it. I mean, like I said, are any of those 3 guaranteed to win the conference tournament? No, of course not. Like NC State was on the outside last year, kind of looking in. They won that tournament. Got a 12 seed in the. Were they a 12 seed in the
12 or 13? Yeah, they went on a crazy run.
Yeah, like anything can happen, of course, but like I don't really see it. Like the bottom of that conference is really bad. Like I could see maybe like North Carolina figuring it out for a few games, but they're not good. Wake Forest could. I feel like Wake Forest could fit that bill a little bit. Figure out how to play for a few games in a row and do something there. Stanford's okay too. I don't think Stanford's bad, but they're definitely like a step below those other 3 teams. But outside of those, I don't know, 6, 7, that conference is really struggling. Boston College, Miami, Georgia Tech, NC State, Notre Dame, Florida State, they're really bad. Virginia Tech, they're terrible. Yeah, it's just that was like, how Bill Walton always said the Conference of Champions was the Pac-12, and it just wasn't. It wasn't like the Cold War. Yeah, like the ACC isn't like they were the real Conference of Champions. I think that's gone. Like I don't know. Tobacco Road was like a blowout.
Yeah,
that's not fun. And I mean, might as well just keep on moving along, right? Big Ten. I think the Big Ten's good. Like I would say the Big Ten, maybe not the top caliber of talent, with your ranked teams necessarily, but like top to bottom, I think the Big Ten's probably the second.
It's very strong.
Second best conference in the country. Purdue's really good. Like they lost Edey last year, and that offense is still clicking. Like they're just guard heavy, but like they're very, very solid. Wisconsin, we talked about this before. Like they lost all that scoring from last year between Essigan and Hepburn and Storr. They're better. Like they're just flat out better than last year. Michigan State's struggling a little bit the last couple of games, but they're really good too. Illinois is good. I think UCLA, you could buy them a little low right now. Like I don't think they're as bad as they have been playing. Like they had a really tough stretch of games. It seems like all the Pac-12 inserts are really struggling in Big Ten play. Like Oregon, like they looked really good to start the year. And, that was a really young group last year, but they have like completely sputtered out. They won last night against Northwestern, but like they have been really bad since. So like I'm not confident in backing them whatsoever. They're still young too. Like I think that group's going to grow together. Like they'll be really, really good next year, but they've really hit a wall. Rutgers is bad. Maryland's ranked, but I'm not sold on them quite yet. Like they play pretty good defense for the most part. They can score, but not really sure about how I feel about them. And then there's Michigan too. Michigan's kind of like a so-so team, right? Yeah. But like they were ranked for points of the season. Like Dusty Mays in his first year, they look good at times, they look bad at times. So like, I mean, if you were to back a kind of a longer shot team, I don't think Michigan would be a bad wager there either, just because you'd probably get some good value on them, even though Big Ten plays always a little weird. You never really know who's going to come out of there. But outside of the teams I mentioned, forget about like Penn State, Iowa, Minnesota, Washington. Terrible. Don't worry about them. There's really not much left. I mean, mid-majors, there's a few. Like Gonzaga's still good. St. Mary's is really good. San Francisco. Santa Clara is not bad either. Big West is fun. Irvine, San Diego. But we can wrap this whole thing up with the Mountain West. Mountain West has kind of been like a controversial topic the last couple of seasons because like they always seem to get more auto bids than people think they're worthy of. And like they hadn't won a tournament game until
They
San Diego
sucked in the
State ripped
tournament
off
last
3
year.
of them in a row 2 years ago. But that conference is bad this year. Bad.
It is, but it's
They'll
usually
have
really,
I
really
think they'll
good.
have 3 bids.
I mean, I don't even think. And New Mexico is 20-4, and I don't even
New
think
Mexico will be an auto bid, whether they win
Yeah.
the tournament or not. They're good enough to be an auto bid. They'll probably be like a 12 seed if they don't.
Utah
win
State will probably get in
Utah
regardless.
State, I think that would be the only other one I would constitute as an auto bid. Like if
San
they
Diego
don't win the
State's the
Mountain
next
West
best team.
tournament, they're not that good though.
No, they're not. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're
I
not.
think it's
like,
those two, and everyone else
yeah,
is fighting.
like
for the,
if the one of those 2 teams don't win that tournament, I think they'll get 3. Like if one of those 2 teams wins that tournament, I wouldn't be shocked if they only had 2. Like that conference is really bad this year. Like San Diego State, their style of play always seems to play in tournament time. So maybe you'll get that 3rd team. Maybe it'll be a 4-bid league this year, but I don't know. It's really tough to tell because Colorado State, they're iffy. Wyoming's horrible.
Boise is okay.
Boise.
And I thought
I forgot about Boise,
this
but
year.
yeah, I
they
kind
would
of
be
forgot
electric
about
this year.
And they started out that way, but they've kind of hit a rough stretch as well. I kind of forgot about them. Like I would probably throw them in the mix with the other 3: San Diego State, New Mexico, and Utah State. But outside of them, this conference isn't really good. San Jose State, they're spread gods. Like they're fun to bet on, but they're not good. But yeah, the mid majors have not been as exciting this year. Outside of the 2 in the Big West, really. Those couples and those 2, 3, 4 teams in the Mountain West, A10's poop. They stink. Like VCU and George Mason are the only 2 you're probably going to see out of there, unless Duquesne goes on a wild ride. I don't know. It's been a lot of like the quality of the mid majors of the good ones is much better, but like as a whole, like the mid major conferences are really struggling.
Yeah.
Which is expected, I guess, right?
With transfer portal stuff, yeah, you would think.
Yeah, but home stretch. We're gonna definitely have some conference tournament preview stuff planned as well. We're working on that behind the scenes. So that pretty much wraps up everything. You got anything else to add there, William?
That's all I got.
That's all you got? You want to do our social plug since you're so well rehearsed in that?
Oh, yeah. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Overdue Sports. Like and subscribe to the YouTube. Notifications on the podcast help us get it out there. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Actually, this time.